Welcome to the Fleet Geeks Podcast. We're here to help develop fleet and transport professionals. Do you want to progress and develop your skills and knowledge? We promise to bring lively conversation and debate around interesting issues and keep you bang up to date with changes in our awesome industry. The Fleet Geeks are a community of professionals, and if you enjoyed the podcast, why not join the discussion for free in the Fleet Geek community over on Facebook. Welcome to this episode of Fleet Geeks. Mike, Jamie and myself are here ready to roll, and we're really excited to be talking about environment and culture today. And strangely, some people go, hang on, are those two things linked together? Well, I believe they are, and I think we do as well. So we're just going to have a bit of a chat through those. And actually, it's quite timely because I want to rave from the rooftops about a decision that Flagship Partners made recently, which was to sign up for ecology, which as part of this conversation we'll talk a bit more about. But we're really proud to say that we are now a climate positive workforce here at Flagship. So culture. Let's start with that because it's slightly this fuzzy type thing that we don't talk too much about in the transport sector. What is culture according to you guys? I'm opening up the conversation.
I do know the definition. I'm just racking my brain to think of what the definition.
I'm just thinking about something that grows on your yogurt you've left in the fridge for too long. But I'm sure that there's another.
Well, that's actually quite a good example, isn't it?
Growth is a culture, isn't it? Culture of growth. I suppose the two words do link in, doesn't it? So. I don't know what is the dictionary definition of culture, but for me it means kind of a set of values, principles, growth kind of mindset.
Yeah, perfect.
No.
Perfect. So I've just had a bit of a look at it on Google, and this aligns very much with what I think. So the ideas, customs, and social behaviour of a particular people or societal behaviour. So. In your business, what does that mean? Well, it's the stuff that you feel without seeing in your culture. It is the culture within your business or within your client's business, and it's the sum of the interactions between the people in the organisation, and it's basically how things are done around here.
I think you can see it, Pete, to be fair. So if
well,
there's a good health and safety culture, you'll see that.
Well, no, that's true. No, you're probably right. Yeah, to be fair, it's largely intangible, isn't it? But no, it is very much visible from a health and safety point of view in an organisation.
Yeah,
but I think it's very much it's the accepted modus operandi, the MO for an organisation. And interestingly, I think people have such a large impact on that, and various people, and one person will leave a group of people and then another person will join, and all of a sudden that culture will shift ever so change, you see this cultural shift intentionally or unintentionally, which I think is largely the thing, because in a lot of businesses I think the culture, particularly in the fleet sector, I would say largely speaking, the culture isn't something that's nurtured. It isn't something we've ever really spoken about. I would say the companies that do things well and the companies that do things poorly, both ways, it's largely unintentional.
And it's reflective on their current culture, what they've got growing within their business. Now, people might be listening to this and thinking, well, this is this modern mumbo jumbo, but it's not really, is it modern? Because if you think back a few years ago, if you came across, I don't know, Fred Bloggs, and Fred Bloggs have been working at Smith & Company for 20 years. People would say of Fred, if you cut his arm, he would bleed Smith & Company. So it's kind of that sort of entrenched sort of set of behaviours and beliefs that grow within a business and within an organisation. So I don't think it's anything new particularly, is it? Not really.
No, I don't think so. It's certainly something that's been it's been throughout our history. We've just got to look at history for the different cultures that the people, the leaders have created. And it's interesting because as you say, actually the culture is often what dictates people's behaviour. You've only got to look at the Nazis as an example, where the culture has led the behaviour. What do you reckon, Jay?
No, yeah, definitely, yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because you talk about going back to the workplace a bit. Where I used to work, the guys that had been there years had a culture of how it was, and it sort of didn't mix with how we was. So they used to, and I don't want to name the company, but we would say, they're from the old workplace. That's why they weren't like they're a bit slow, a bit more. It's their culture. It's how they worked. It wasn't the modern way we was sort of being brought up to work, but that was their culture. So they'd always done it, and it definitely was. You could see in the workshop where I worked the difference between the two cultures.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, you can have two cultures in a workplace, then really.
And that's another really, really good example, because actually you see the culture clashes between different generational differences in a business as well.
They wouldn't want to use. We got the laptops to plug into the Canvas system. They didn't want to know any of that. That was their culture was hit it with a big hammer and
hit it and hope for the best. Oh, me mechanic. Oh.
It's not the size of your hammer; it's nowhere to hit it.
Oh, I knew we'd have a bit of fun with this one. Anyone who's not sure of, there's a really powerful video I actually share as part of the mental health training, when I start to talk about culture and I talk about people's environment and their upbringing. And I don't know if any of you have seen it, but please do watch. It's Simon Sinek, and he talks about millennials, and he talks about millennials in the workplace and their life experiences and how that goes to clash potentially with what's called the Gen Xers and even the baby boomers in the different generational workplaces. And largely speaking, and you see it all the time in the fleet sector, you'll see old school drivers. And remember, the average age of an HGV driver is something like 56, 57 plus. So they're going to be very early Gen Xers, potentially some baby boomers in there as well. They see the millennials as snowflakes. And it's just the cultural difference.
Yeah, and I watched a programme last night on the Royal Marines, and there was a 17-year-old who'd passed out, had done a marine test, and you think, well, that's not exactly snowflake generation there, is it, really? So it's our beliefs. I'm just trying to think try to figure out what I would be. I'm going to let that permeate in my brain. Oh, hello, Pete's Googling it now.
I am. I'm getting Google out so we can work out Generation X.
What generation you are. But yeah, it does define. I had an interesting conversation the other day with somebody who...
65.
60. Oh, I'm on my borderline then.
So baby boomers are pre-65 and post-65 is Gen Xers.
I can have my foot in either court. That's all.
Yeah. So you can pick which one suits you, can't you?
Oh, yeah, I could go in either.
And millennials, if you're unsure, Jay, kicked in at 81, which I think is around.
Yeah, millennial,
yeah. But I think. See, the thing is interestingly, I can see Jamie's on the edge of Gen X and millennial, because I think the millennials kind of became more. I think the traits became more exacerbated the later in the 80s they'd have been born, because they'd have had much more time growing up around social media and the internet and that kind of stuff.
It's kind of running from that. I had a conversation with somebody from. Who basically administers exams, and we were talking about getting rid of or phasing out written notes, and a lot of people in on the meeting was, oh no, we can't do that. It wouldn't be something that we can ever do. There's people who like to see written notes, and this young lad, very bright young lad, he said you've got to understand. He said, for me to read a piece of paper is as odd as to ask you to read something that comes on a device, So you got to think about it from the other person's point of view, haven't you? Yes, to give him a set of papers would be just as odd as giving me a tablet and telling me to read it from the tablet, So we have to make that sort of.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that organisational empathy is very important.
Yeah, you're right. I would see people print stuff off to read it.
Yeah.
In my old job, definitely they'd be like, I'll send you that, so they'll print it off to read it.
Which
on the screen, which is nothing wrong with that. That's what
absolutely.
Brings us beautifully into the environment side of this conversation. So the environment. So again, a very generational thing, because I think particularly the younger generation seem to be very engaged in the environment and wanting to make
a quick story. My daughter's just turning 8, and I showed her a thing about the red arrows, and her first comment wasn't, "Oh, that's amazing." It was, "Well, that's not very good for the environment."
Oh dear.
Amazing, isn't it? They look at it totally differently to us.
Yeah, exactly. It's
that's the culture that you're right. That's what they've been brought up to think more about the environment.
Hi, it's Pete from Flagship Partners. We're really proud to sponsor the Fleet Geeks podcast.
Flagship Partners offer a range of consultancy and training services to ensure that our customers remain compliant and have the best possible knowledge to be able to fulfill their work. If you're interested in support with any of our safety, HR or compliance services, or you want to train to be a transport manager or need driver CPC training, give us a call today.
Just positive thing, obviously.
I was going to say, I've certainly got a story of my son, Roman. He being very categoric towards someone he saw drop some litter on the floor. Literally, he was totally disgusted. Yes. The boy's 10, but he was absolutely disgusted by the behaviour of a much older person who had just dropped rubbish on the floor. So I think we all know and have seen the memes of Greta Thunberg on largely made infamous on the internet, particularly by, I'd say, older generation. I know if I was to bring Greta Thunberg up during a driver CPC class, I would be, particularly if I was supportive of her, I'd be lambasted. Yeah. Interestingly.
That's because I think the media it's black and white to them. It's if you're an environmentalist, then the next thing you're going to go and do is glue yourself to an oil tanker or go and protest on the M25 or follow that particular young lady. But you can be an environmentalist without kind of that. People have been environmentalists for years. David Attenborough wants to protect the natural environment. We don't want to see species disappear. We don't want to see rivers become clogged and polluted. But that doesn't mean necessarily we're going to come and glue ourselves to the M25. Although you might as well, because nothing moves really very fast on the M25, does it? But very safe, not going to get run over. Yeah. So I think this notion that you either where's the middle? We love these at the moment divisions, don't we? We're either extremely one side or extremely the other side of a debate. But I think many of us, and I'm, as we've just discovered, a Gen X or possibly even a baby boomer. I've been an environmentalist in that respect for years. I love the countryside. I love wild nature and birds and animals. So does that make me want to go and glue myself to the M25? No, it doesn't. But it's still there, isn't it?
It's very tricky in our sector, I think. I was just having a look whilst you're speaking there at Extinction Rebellion. So you've got these activists or environmental activists who largely can really, really disrupt our sector and cause people a lot of headaches. And particularly their behaviour can be very childish and they would argue that they're trying to get people to wake up and listen and that kind of thing, that they're being very honourable in what they're doing, and there's kind of this action that we all need to take collectively to stop ruining the planet and to help protect the environment and to do our thing, and it's important to find that sort of respectable middle ground, I suppose, where I'm conscious that I don't want to alienate anyone, but interestingly, as I alleged earlier, we signed up to ecology. It's something that's very important to me that we have as a goal with Flagship Partners and as a leader. One of the dents that I want to make, or the impact that I want us to make, is around people, planet and profit. So the idea being is that if we look after the people in our business and our people look after people in our clients' businesses, then ultimately we create great cultures and we create great working environments that are safe. We create safer roads, and that's part of the impact that we're doing. And then you've got the planet element that we're helping to support operators to be more thoughtful and more proactive in the way that they're improving efficiencies, because actually it helps improve their profitability as well. The less resource they're using, then potentially the more profitable they can be. And then finally the profit thing, because as long as we're making profit at the other end, we can start to reuse that force for good back through again. It's like a cycle of the people, planet, profit. If you continue to make profit through it, you're able to sort of go the way through. And a lot of people think profit's a dirty word, but ultimately you need to be able to make an impact in the world, because then you can, that those finances, the people element and the planet element cost money. They take investment.
Interesting you say that. It's in the news with BP profits and the windfall tax. And actually, the government's like, we're not going to do that. We want them to invest that money into sustainable energy. Mm-hmm. So and I suppose in the same model as what you just said.
Yeah, you need
invest in that profit to
you need to invest profits to be able to make differences. If if there's no profits left at the end, then there's nothing. We can't drive change. We can't make improvements. We can't make progression. So it is absolutely vital. So I don't want to sort of land on that for too long, but certainly from an environmental point of view, I decided that I wanted the company to be. It meant something to me for us to have that climate positive workforce, and that for you guys to have that as team members. So we've signed up to Ecology, who, if you go and have a look online, they plant trees around the world, right? And we give part a donation, which is then utilised elsewhere, and we're able to be it offsets the carbon usage that we use as a business and as people individually as well. And I think what it does is it starts to show that commitment. And one of the things we can start to look at is actually the impact we have with our customers as well. But interestingly, I shared that on social media yesterday, and of all of the posts I've done in the last week, it got the least interaction. Because interestingly, I don't think people give a fuck. No. Which is very, it's very strange. We're existing in this world, and I don't know if people think, I expected, interestingly, I actually expected that post to do really, really well, and it didn't. So that was good feedback for me, because I realised that actually it showed me that actually the industry that we operate in and the people that I'm connected with on LinkedIn, actually, it's maybe not as high up their agenda as we like to think. So therefore, I need to approach the way we communicate the environment side in a different way.
In our industry, it can be seen as cost at times, can't it?
It's going to cost us, yeah. If it's green, it's going to cost us. That's how people view it, don't they? But I mean, my own personal experiences was because ultimately this is leading to the question of what are we going to do as an industry? What can we do? And I think there'll be people out there who quite rightly are saying, well, there is no alternative at the moment to the diesel, to the combustion engine. How are we going to move 44 tonnes around with an electric motor? It's not going to happen, is it? Not now. But go back 20 years, and we wouldn't have said that about even the smallest of gains that we've had. And where I was working for local authority, we were early adopters of electric vehicles, and when we first started using electric cars, and then we moved to electric vans, and we didn't use electric trucks apart from road sweepers and stuff. That's kind of quite a big jump and a big bump up. So we're going to, as an industry, I think we know that it's going. We know we are going down that route. So we need to be prepared, don't we, fellas?
There's things we can do now, so isn't there, with diesel? That there's drivers switching their engines off rather than leaving them ticking over, and that's a cultural thing, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Just thinking about it, just making that person. Their culture, they know that that's the right thing to do. It's not just because I'm being told to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the right thing to do. Absolutely. And I think, is it, you'll know better than I do, is it 4 litres an hour?
0.8 litres.
0.8 litres in a...
I was going to say, the number I always share is idling's nearly a gallon an hour.
0.8 gallons.
0.8 gallons, in an hour.
Huge, isn't it?
What's the cost? What's the cost of a gallon?
Yeah, we talk about
huge.
Cost, but actually that's saving it, isn't it? Right?
Yeah,
huge. And so I think there's a lot of environmental savings that can be made. I've just interestingly, like you say, sort of in your fleet manager's role, we've just helped a client get their ISO 14001, which is the environmental standard. And as part of doing that, we were looking at. It's not just like the light switching off. It's also what can we do to reduce water usage and the driver training that we're implementing around fuel efficiency and the gains there. It's about reviewing our utilities bills and what we can do to impact those. So people will start to fall asleep, I think, as I talk about it. But ultimately, environment and culture are very, very closely mixed, because it's the behaviour. The culture is created by the behaviour of people, and if we're going to have an impact on the environment, we also need to look at the behaviour of people. And I like this podcast because it's given us the opportunity just to start that conversation, because I think as an industry, we need to have more cultural conversations, and we need to have more environmental conversations.
I'm the right culture as well. I was on an environmental course when I was working for Frontera, and interestingly, we was talking about how much we recycled as a business, and he flipped on its head and said, do you need it in the first place? You know, it still costs energy to recycle these things.
Yeah.
You know, can you get away with not needing that, whatever it was in the first place? It's really.
And then you're looking at profitability.
Yeah.
It's so intrinsically linked. It's so intrinsically linked.
I mean, for years and years and years, 25 plus years, it's been, you know, on every sort of driving course, or better driving course that I've ever been on or been involved with, it's always been that the more efficient driver is also the safer driver.
Absolutely.
So, you know, there's a safety element to it as well, and you know, so there's all sorts of benefits that we probably don't appreciate.
You know, I think the safety culture element's probably one for another podcast, but I'll just place this here, and that is that a lot of the time we look at people doing stupid shit that causes accidents. But actually, I am a firm believer that people are victims of the environment. They're victims of the culture of the business they work in, because you can see people change. They'll work in one business, and how we do things around here is where a hive is, and we follow the rules and we follow the principles, and we're shit scared of getting bollocked for not doing the right thing. But actually it creates the right sort of behaviours. They look after each other, they care about each other, they have safety conversations, and take that person out of that business where the culture's that way, and you put him inside another business where there's no training, there's no safety culture, they do what they want and do as they please, and they cut corners and do everything as quickly as possible, and productivity's the key thing. Productivity, profit at the expense of all else and at the expense of quality, and all of a sudden that guy gets his hand chopped off. It's not the person, is it?
No, absolutely. Yeah.
It's the culture of the business.
Culture.
So anyway, on that bombshell, I'm going to leave that there, and I think safety culture might be one for another episode. What do you reckon?
Absolutely, certainly.
Brilliant. All right, thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and catch you all on the next one.
See you on the next one.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please share with your friends and colleagues too. Join us for free on Facebook with the Fleet Geeks community for transport and fleet managers. Fleet Geeks offers ongoing professional development, networking and mentoring too. So get in touch with me, Pete Rushmer, on any social media platform to find out more.